English with Deck. Okay. Another day, another dollar. Done. Another day ticked off the list. Ooh. Alright, it's Deck here from Deck English with another episode of English with Deck. Let's go. Okay, now following on from the last episode on all about toilets. Especially toilets in Japan. I thought it was a perfect opportunity to sort of talk about, well, another aspect of Japanese stereotypical things. And by stereotypical things, I mean something that is very famous worldwide for its efficiency, its cleanliness, and the ease to a degree. And that is the Japanese trains. Now, I just want to preface this by saying I am not saying that everything about Japanese trains is fantastic. I'm not saying everything about Japan is fantastic. No country or culture is perfect. No single culture or country or nation, anything like that, has a 100% perfect score. There's always something, whether it's a personal issue, a personal gripe, or whether it's a genuine sort of nationwide, regional issue. There is something. And to say there isn't, or to ignore that fact, well, that's a bit silly, in my opinion. That is being blindsided. Like a horse when it wears those covers over its eyes to sort of not get scared. Yeah, it's like having the blinkers off. That's lovely. And yeah, so I want you to know, I don't think it's all perfect. It's not all squeaky clean as it looks. But all that said and done, there are many, 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 many things which are worth talking about and shouting about from the rooftops. And yes, without a doubt, one of them is the Japanese trains. Now, I am not by any means someone who loves trains. I have pretty much zero knowledge of trains other than your main, most famous sort of models. That I am honestly not clued up about trains. I will say that. But, trains in Japan, they're pretty damn good. They're clean, for a start. Now, if you listened to the last episode on toilets, you'll remember how I mentioned about graffiti being a key part of the UK public toilets. Maybe even out of service, out of order, rubbish, littered everywhere. And to a degree, many public transport services in the UK are pretty similar in that sense. Not all, and by any means nowhere near as many of a percentage as the toilets, but still it's not uncommon to see. Whereas it's way less common to see that here. Now, why is that? Well, one reason is it's less common for people to drop litter or graffiti so openly. So openly. Notice what I said there. So openly. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just happens less openly or less obviously. And that means that to a passing glance, to the tourist's eye, but to most people actually, or most of the time, the trains, the buses, etc., will be very clean. And then let's get to the punctuality of them. And my God, I am not going to even sugarcoat this one. Especially, actually, in fact, even if I go into the local city, which by Japanese standards is pretty small, You know that even there, the trains are on point. They are immaculately on time. They are perfectly on time. There is little to no delay. And if there is a huge apology issued. I'm so sorry, the train is delayed. Please accept our humble apologies. So yeah, the punctuality wins hands down. Honestly, I have not been to a country out of all the countries I've been to, which has such a high record of punctuality when it comes to public transport, especially trains. And I guess following on from that, if you're in the big cities, the trains can seem like absolute chaos when you're there. When you're there for the first time or first year, if you go at rush hour, you're literally like sardines in a can. You're squished against the wall. You are fighting for your life. You're sort of elbowing the person next to you when they push into you. And they pushed into you because the other person pushed into them. Oh, it's a constant struggle. It's like a never-ending game of wills. Who has the strongest willpower? And obviously, if you're not in the big cities, that's not such an issue, but you do still see it to a degree. But there is an etiquette, there is a manner which you do quickly adapt to. Because if you don't adapt, you get in the way. If you get in the way, then you end up, sort of being pushed over when you're getting on the train at rush hour, or just in general, like I said, getting in the way, meaning that you basically cause a big inconvenience or an issue for other people, just simply trying to get about their day. So yeah, once you've learned the routine, the manner needed, it does begin to make sense. And to a degree, because of the complexity at face value, the complexity of the system, because of the complexity at face value of the sort of etiquette involved, that's one reason why it works so well, in my opinion. Hmm. And getting around in Japan is pretty damn easy at the end of the day. I mean, you have to go really far into the countryside for it to become a big issue. I mean, even where I live now, and I am pretty remote in the sense of I'm not near a big hub by any means, but even if I go quite far away from my house, I'm not completely stranded. There's still buses. Admittedly, the service is very reduced, but yeah, there's still buses, and definitely I can get taxis and stuff. But regarding the trains, they are, for the most part, very, very accessible and very, very punctual because they simply are an absolute essential means, should I say, of sort of getting about and living our lives. So if you do get a chance to sort of commute or just ride on the various models of train here, absolutely take note of the comparisons between them. Absolutely sort of decide what the pros and the cons are of taking the trains here. I mean, many people really are not a fan, and some people absolutely love them. But, each to their own and all that. So, yeah, just to finalize, I guess the trains here, without a doubt, cleanliness over the UK ones anyway. I'm going to give. I'm going to give the Japanese ones a 5 out of 5 for cleanliness. Not 4. 5 is pretty. Yeah, 4. I'll give it a 4 because. And I'll give it a 4.5. I'm sorry. I'm torn. I'm really torn. That I'm not going to say 5. 5 is nearly impossible. But it's very rare that I would encounter much trash, rubbish, or anything similar. I mean, put it this way, even if somebody vomits because of, for example, drinking too much, when that person vomits, then if they get off the train, at the next station after that, a train attendant, a train station attendant will rush onto the train with something like a bag of sawdust. I'm not entirely sure what it is actually. It's similar to sawdust, like the tiny bits of wood that comes off a piece of wood when you're cutting it is called sawdust. And then they sort of scatter that on top, and then usually they sweep it up instantly and it's disappeared. So yeah, cleanliness, I'm going to say a 4.5. Punctuality, for the schedule, solid 5. Can't complain there. Ease of understanding, I'm going to say a 3. Like I said, once you do get used to it, it is pretty straightforward. And because it runs like a well-oiled machine, it does make sense once you're used to it. But that point until you're used to it is bloody traumatic in many, many. That's a story for another day. And in comparison to the UK trains, well, the UK trains are absolutely historic in many, many ways. So I can't be too harsh. So I'm going to give that a 3 as well, just in comparison. So there you have it. Well, those are the pros and the cons of generally speaking, Japanese trains. Okay, guys. Well, remember, English doesn't have to be difficult. See you in the next one.